All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, Craig. How are you doing today?
Doing well, man. How are you?
I am doing good. It is Monday morning and the son has just dropped off at preschool, so I'm ready ready to chat with you and just kind of get some stuff done. Get some stuff done. We actually we had some exposure to COVID like 2 weeks ago. So we had kept our son home all last week just to be safe, and he hasn't had any symptoms. And so it's been a long week, so I'm excited
Yeah,
to just dive in and do some work today. So
I'm actually in the same boat. We had some exposure last week, so I'm
yeah,
staying at home doing everything via video. So,
yep, yeah. It's a crazy world that we live in. I hope
yeah,
this comes to an end soon.
yeah, for
all,
sure.
all right, well let's get in. First of all, we want to hear, who are you and what do you do to help therapists?
Yeah, so my name's Craig Alsup. Live in Fort Worth, Texas. Have been helping therapists for just over a year. Kind of do a mix of things. I kind of like the very hands-on sort of technical things. So Google My Business optimization, so that you're found locally. SEO on websites, so sort of like the very technical, the meta descriptions and titles and H1 headers and all those different things that most people don't know about, but that help to get you some Google love. And then I also do some coaching for therapists. I'm a group practice owner, and so, sort of some of the ins and outs of that, some of the nuts and bolts of how to grow your practice, how to bring on new therapists and sort of keep the ball rolling
Yeah,
and create that sort of snowball that we all want as we're growing practices.
right. Very cool. Whenever I speak to a guest, and especially someone who who I've just met, I always want to hear a little bit about your story and take us back a little bit and just tell us a little bit how you got started doing what you're doing, because I think the story is always inspiring, especially when it comes to business building. And people have so many different goals, and it's just fun to hear how people have kind of got to where they are today. So tell us a little bit about how you got started doing all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I was a therapist in Missouri for years, and eventually stepped away from that to do some nonprofit work and some work through around the world, and uh, and ended up in Fort Worth, Texas, because that's where my nonprofit is located. After a little time here, we realized that about 8,000 people a day are moving into the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. And
Wow.
so, massive influx of people in this area. And with a growing population comes lots of growing needs for mental health. And so, my wife and I, as sort of a crazy side hustle, started a group practice. And with the idea that we'd work on the practice and not in the practice, that we'd hire therapists to do therapy with primarily couples, some anxiety, some depression, some teenagers, and it started to grow. I started to learn more about marketing. That was a few years ago, just over 3 years, and started to learn more about marketing and what is Google My Business and what is SEO and what is Google Ads and all these different things. And once I learned more, things started to grow. And now our practice is growing really month over month. We have 5 therapists. We're about to hire 2 more. We have 2 offices now. We just took on a second location, or 2 different locations now, I should say.
Cool.
And so it has just taken off. And about just over a year ago, I posted on Facebook group just some tips of how to grow your practice and just trying to help some therapists out. And I had a lady message me from Florida, therapist, and say, "Hey, can you help me to just like do this stuff? Because I don't know how to do any of it." And so I made up some prices and right, just like, oh, I think it's worth this much.
So you didn't you
And
didn't you didn't have a business plan or anything?
no, it was no business plan. It was an accidental.
That's
I
great.
thought it was going to be like a one-time thing. And then she started to grow. Her practice started to grow. She like went from like 8 clients a week to like 20 something. Um, she started to refer me to other people or refer other people to me. And the next thing I knew, I was helping a whole bunch of different therapists
Yeah.
right in the beginning of this pandemic. And it has continued to grow. So now I get to help therapists. I've got coaching clients all over the United States. I've got some coaching clients in Canada. I've got some SEO and Google My Business and all kinds of different stuff that I'm doing for people all over the states.
That's awesome. So you weren't really, were you just really looking to be, you're just looking to be helpful and it just kind of, a business just dropped in your lap kind of?
Yeah, basically, and
That's
it's kind of
awesome.
funny too because I still don't much treat it like it's not a full time business or something
Yeah.
like that, but it's something that I enjoy,
Yeah.
and I enjoy getting messages like just a few days ago I got a message from a therapist, and I did Google My Business and SEO work for her, and she said. I've made as much in the last 3 months as I made in the year prior with my
Wow.
practice.
Wow.
And which is crazy because it's far and away beyond what she paid me to do the work. And so
Yeah.
she's gotten multiples of her money back already. And
Yeah.
so she's like, I'm finally able to pay off my medical bills, you know?
Wow.
And so, like,
Yeah.
just cool stuff like that kind of keeps me at it. And,
Yeah.
I make a little bit of extra money here and there, but it's really cool to hear the stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's definitely rewarding when you hear back from clients, and it's kind of like, yeah, this is why we're doing it, to help other people and really bring them up to a new level and kind of help them reach their goals. And that's one thing that I love about my business too, is just seeing people reach their goals is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Google My Business specifically, and some tips for optimization. But I want to begin sort of at the starting level. Like, let's pull out the whiteboard and let's talk about what is Google My Business. I'm sure a lot of people listening have heard of it, or maybe they've heard of it in like different terms. Take us through just sort of the starting level. What is Google My Business, and why is it important for private practices?
Yeah. So Google My Business is basically a free listing for your practice for any service business, any restaurant, anything like that can use it. But the idea is that Google wants you to give all the information into Google so that when somebody searches and they're close to where you are, that Google can, go send its little spiders out and it can gather all the information that's most pertinent to their search. And it can show them the business that's the perfect business for them in their area. And so anytime you go into Google search, you search for a service type business, a counselor, a restaurant, whatever, you'll see on the right side, usually it populates some information. And that's information that's pulled from that Google My Business listing. And so Google My Business has 20 something different areas that I found that we need to optimize to really start to rank that better. And specifically to rank it better for the services that you provide, for the terms that you want to rank for, and within a very close proximity to where you are. So, Sally, who lives in the neighborhood beside your practice, searches anxiety therapist near me, or searches anxiety therapist on Google. And Google goes, hey, John's practice is right here, or Craig's practice is right here. And Google wants to show them that because they know the chances that Sally will actually hire that person is pretty good if they're really close,
Hmm.
they're right next door, and they're the best fit.
Yeah.
And so we want to optimize Google My Business so that it's the best fit. And it's free. I mean, it takes time. And that's why people hire me to do it
Yeah.
often, is because it takes time and some know how. But it's not rocket science. And it's a free listing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, one of the most important things too is like, it's Google, and everyone's trying to, obviously get more traffic from Google, and especially if they have a free tool, like
Yeah,
let's use it. And sometimes, a lot of the times you got to play by Google's rules, so it's kind of a easy and low cost way to play by their rules and at least
yeah,
start getting found locally. That's
exactly.
kind of how I explain it to people. Like, oh, you don't have a listing, like just start there. Like, let's start there.
Start with that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Well,
And
take. Oh,
you know,
sorry.
it's not it's not difficult to
Yeah.
just get started.
Yeah. Well, take us through. So I believe you said you have seven tips for really
Yeah,
optimizing your Google My Business um, profile and listing. So take us through the tips that you have, and I'm excited to hear these because I know they're going to be super applicable and people can really get to work today on this stuff, which is awesome.
yeah, for sure. I love the sort of the nuts and bolts things. And so, I mean, obviously, you got to get your listing. So that's kind of like a tip before the first tip.
Yeah.
But just jump on business.google.com, sign up for a listing. Often they'll make you request a postcard that'll be mailed to your location. Once you get that, you just enter the code and it verifies your listing. But the first one really is to ensure your information is accurate. Like make sure that your phone number, your address, I mean, down to the suite number is exactly what it reads on your website. So making sure those things match. Also filling that out. So your business name, um, if your website says Live Beyond Counseling LLC, make your Google My Business say Live Beyond Counseling LLC.
Yeah.
Make sure that all of that is up to date, that it all matches, and then start to build out the additional things that it says. So that's number one. Um, Number two is to fill in the rest of everything. So there are lots of different areas. Like I said, there's 20 plus areas that I check. It's making sure your name, address, phone number all matches, making sure that under categories, a lot of therapists just leave it as whatever pre-populates. And often it's like mental health clinic or mental health service.
Mm,
Um, I always suggest that you go in and you say, there's one that says family counselor. If you're a family counselor, there's one that says marriage or couples therapist or relationship therapist, I think is what it says. Um, there's one that just says counselor. So select any and all of those that fit your practice. Um,
and how
Beyond
many?
that,
Excuse me.
making sure,
Sorry.
yeah,
How, I was just I just wanted to know how many categories are you able to choose on the
I
profile?
think you can choose, I think it's like 6 to 8.
Okay.
I usually say, do your top 3 or 4. So like mine is marriage or relationship counselor, counselor, and psychotherapist. I think
Okay.
is the 3 that I have listed.
Okay.
Um, uh, yeah, so just whatever fits there.
Gotcha.
And then making sure your website is listed, the exact link to your website. There's right now there's a COVID link. So if you have COVID related information on your website, maybe a frequently asked question page that says something about due to COVID-19, we're doing video sessions or whatever,
Right.
add that. Um, there are places you can add attributes like this is a woman owned, practice or, you know, African American owned practice, or
Mm-hmm.
this is a, we have elevators that can fit wheelchairs or whatever. You want to go in and click all those buttons to let Google know what you have available
Right.
amenity wise. Um, okay, and then so once you kind of go through and begin to fill all those things out, you'll see an area for services. You'll see an area for locations that you service. So I always say put in every little town and city that's like right around where you are
Mm-hmm.
into that locations category. Services would be divide those out like anxiety counseling, depression counseling, marriage therapy, whatever that looks like for you. And then you can actually add a description in for each one of those services. And so if you add those descriptions, think about keywords, think about,
Yeah.
somebody searches for marriage therapist in Southlake, Texas. I want to show up because that's where my new location is. It's like,
Yep.
if somebody searches for that, I need to show up. So what am I going to write in that description? I'm going to write, Live Beyond Counseling is a marriage therapy clinic in Southlake, Texas. If you're looking for you know, marriage therapist in this area, please give us a call, whatever. Um, so I'm going to write something along those lines. All right. So number two, jumping on, or number three, jumping on, reply to all your reviews within 24 hours.
Hmm.
Now, some therapists don't like to reply to reviews. Um, don't, you want to be careful not to acknowledge anything. I just say something along the lines of, hey, thank you for the excellent review. It, kind of scratches Google's back to let them know that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it's not providing any information based upon who you're seeing.
Yeah.
Um,
Question
the
on
next,
that.
yeah,
Um, do you typically get a lot of reviews?
we don't get a lot. Every now and then you'll have a client that'll do it. We've asked some colleagues to give us
Hmm.
reviews. Just people that know the quality of our therapy, people who
Yeah.
refer to us, things like that. We've said, hey, you've referred three clients over to us. You've kind of seen how well they've done. Can you jump on Google and give us a review? And we just
Yeah.
send them the link, and they pop on there and say, hey, it's a good place to go for therapy in Southlake.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a great
um,
idea because I know people get sometimes they get a little bit nervous when it comes to reviews and obviously confidentiality. And
yeah,
I know with as we're speaking here, like I have my wife's practice in the back of my mind, which is kind of
mhm,
like with everything I do. And I'm like, oh man, we haven't touched her Google My Business in so long. And so I'm thinking about all these things that she needs to do, and so that's kind of why my question came up because I was like, I don't think she's got any reviews. I don't think she really gets reviews. So I was just curious.
yeah. It's hard because we're not able to ask clients for reviews, and so what we do to get around that is we say, well, every now and then a client is going to give a review. But for the most part, we're just going to say, let's get a few colleagues to give a
Yeah.
review every so often.
Right.
And you don't want to blow that out of the water. You don't want to get like 50 of those in a day. Google will
Yeah.
get mad at you. But
Yeah.
every now and then add one of those.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
so next thing is to add posts weekly. So at least weekly. I usually don't say more than weekly because therapists get a little nervous. But literally, don't reinvent the wheel. So whatever you're posting on Facebook or Instagram for your practice, copy, paste it over, put it on Google My Business as well. Whatever you're posting on your blog, chop out the first paragraph, drop it on Google My Business, and then add a link that says read more or learn more. And so you can add posts there as often as you want, of course. You can also add stuff like, you're hiring a new therapist, or you've got a position open, or you just took on a new office, or one of your people just got, trained in sand tray therapy, or whatever. You can post those types of things. You can also describe your services a little more fully with a post.
Hmm.
Um, and so do those things. Um, Tracking customer insights is really cool on Google My Business. So you can look at, there's a tab on there that says insights. And I think this is number 5. But yeah, you can look on there and there's a tab called insights. And when you get into it, you can start to see what people are searching to find your business through your Google My Business listing, which
Hmm.
can inform you what you need to name your services, different categories that you might need to add on there,
Right.
um, different posts that you can post. So if people are finding you for marriage therapy, you might want to post a few more posts for marriage therapy, and that will help you to sort of stay towards the top when people are searching in your area.
Yeah.
Um, so that gives you a good idea. It also lets you know a little bit about the zip codes where people are finding you from, which is pretty cool because then you can go, well, we've got a lot of clients coming from 10 miles east of us. Why don't we open an office closer to them
Right.
to be able to continue to draw them, but also to draw more people in that area.
Right.
And so stuff like that you can start to tease apart by looking at your insights
Yeah.
tab.
That's very cool.
So let's see. Add a bunch of photos. Um, I usually say try to add 20 plus photos.
Wow.
Everything from the inside of your practice, every room, every amenity that you have available. If you've got an elevator, if you've got stairs, if you've got a reception desk, if you've got whatever, add pictures of those things. Um, just take those pictures, with your phone or whatever, and add those pictures in there. Also, add pictures of your staff, add pictures of the outside of your building. So it gives sort of context of what it looks like, where you'll enter, things
Yeah.
like that. Um, and then, yeah, so then the sort of the last thing after adding a bunch of photos is to go in and optimize your Google My Business website. Okay. So, one of the things that I tell people not to do is don't do a one page website. Just one super long page that tells all the information
Yes.
is not the best thing to do for Google. I know you build websites on WordPress, and so
Yeah.
uh,
We get a
you know
number of people who are like, how come I'm not ranking for anything? Like, you only have one page.
you have one page with
That's
12 words.
everything. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have one page with 350 words. You're not going to rank for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so usually I tell people like 500 to 750 plus words per page,
Yeah.
home page, about page, your service niche pages, maybe 2 to 5 of those, depending on your practice, contact page, maybe a frequently asked question page, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and Google My Business, though, provides a one page website. So I tell people, don't make this your primary, don't make this your only website, but use this website to link to your service pages on your actual website. So if you scroll down to the bottom, once you're on your Google My Business listing, you scroll down to the bottom left, there's a thing that says website. You click on it, it pre populates a one page website based upon what you've posted on your Google My Business listing.
Oh,
All of
interesting.
your photos, all of your posts that you add there, your phone number, your email, all of that will pre-populate on a page. You can select some basic stuff like the theme, which will change the color and the font.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a place where you can add text, and you can add, I think it's 2 or 3 thousand words there.
Wow.
And so what I do is describe each one of my services in detail and then put a link to that service page and say, hey, want to find out more? Click here. And it's a link going to that service page on my primary website. And so it
Right.
drives people, because Google is going to show that website. They're going to show your Google My Business. People are going to read a little bit, and then they're going to click through. They're going to go to your primary website where they can hire you. Um, and so it provides an additional link to your website, which helps.
Yep.
But then it also gives just another way for people to find more about you directly through Google.
Right.
And so we get calls every day through our Google My Business listing at this point, multiple calls
That's
usually.
awesome. I had no idea that website, that one page website even existed. So
Yeah,
I'm excited to get to kind of go peek at that and see. Uh, like I said, it's always for my wife, so she's like my guinea pig. So I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I can't wait to get into her profile and check out some of this stuff.
yeah. And it's simple because it's not like, it's not like building a website. It takes literally 2 or 3 minutes to click in, choose a theme,
Hmm.
based upon font and color that sort of most matches your business, and then to type in, add in that page,
Yeah.
or add in those links, and so super fast, creates an extra link to your site, gives Google more information about your services, and yeah, can't lose.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm happy to hear that you're getting, calls from straight from
Yeah.
Google and from Google My Business. So, because a lot of the people I speak to, people that we help and we consult with, they've just kind of got it there. It's just kind of there. It's just this thing that they do. They set it up and they don't fully optimize it or really make use of this free resource that's going to help them get traffic and get in front of their clients.
Yeah, I actually just real quickly pulled up my Google My Business stats, and so in the past 28 days, we've had 435 website visits from
Wow.
Google My Business. We've had 61 calls from Google My Business. We've had
Wow.
35,000 photo views and 98 direction requests in the past 28 days.
Wow.
And so, most people's stats don't look like that because they don't pay them, as much attention to it,
Yeah.
but they can,
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah.
yeah, just it's long endurance over time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, but that's cool.
sticking with it.
You've got the data and the stats right there
Yeah,
to show like this is actually working, and also for you and your side hustle business, like yeah, it works, and here's the stats that can
yeah,
show you that. So
yeah.
that's so super cool. All right, well, I know our time is up. Is there any last tip or encouragement or anything you want to give about Google My Business?
Yeah, just get started. So many people, so many therapists go, "Oh man, I don't understand all this,"
Yeah.
but just get started, jump in, start looking around at it. If you struggle with it, you can't get it, can't get it completed. You can't really start to build those stats and those people calling from it. Definitely reach out, and I'd love to help. Um, and yeah, it's definitely a critical piece, I would say, of any
Yeah.
service business.
Yeah.
So it's worth doing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about your services?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned to you through the email that I would do a $50 discount on Google
Yeah.
My Business optimization or SEO for anybody. So yeah, definitely reach out to me for that. Also, could do that on coaching packages. Um, but yeah, just reach out to me at Craig at livebeyondcounseling.com. So that's LIVE beyond BEYOND counseling.com. Craig at.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Craig. I know I've got a lot of fun things I'm going to start picking through with my wife's Google My Business, and I know that this is going to be super helpful for so many people. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.